Talk Tuesdays, a self-development podcast where each week we focus on growth and we delve into topics and share resources that will help us all in our individual journeys into evolving. This week, we're going to jump into the topic of validation and specifically how that relates to the current events going on in our culture, in our society, and in our times right now. Validation is a key component to self-development, and how and where you measure that validation will have a great reflect on how you show up in the world and how you feel about yourself. To tie this specifically into the events of our times where the George Floyd trial is beginning, that image of him basically losing his life because the officer was on his neck, it does have a plaguing effect on what the viewers, how they receive it. I know me as a woman, a black woman, I immediately think of the black men that are my friends and my family that also can happen to. I don't know, I can imagine it could be detrimentally worse for a black man to see the value of a black man be treated that way. Specifically in our times when this specific event keeps happening and it keeps happening and it keeps happening and the officers are usually acquitted, is saddening, it's maddening, and it really affects the overall idealism of how you see myself, how I see myself, and how we all see ourselves as a part of black culture, because we're constantly digesting these messages and the things that we see. I specifically am very delicate and sensitive with what I watch and what I'm digesting, because I know that it kind of affects me subliminally in a way that I'm not really measuring the cost at how it's going in. But it does, the things that I watch and the things that I do and the people I surround myself with does have a overall effect in how I show up in the world and what I believe I can or I cannot do. There's no immediate cure to things like this that are happening in the world. I think there's a constant working on ourselves that we have to do to combat those images and combat that treatment, and really stay knowledgeable, stay in touch with Black Lives Matter, staying in touch with yourself and your home and your community where you are physically. Also staying in touch and in tune with yourself. Always going back to yourself, touching in with yourself spiritually, mentally, and physically. It's going to balance you out in those times, but there's no immediate, quick, hurry up cure for what that is after years and years of that happening, and now for it to continuously happen across multiple methods of communication, like through devices, how we use them on social media. Just seeing that alone, it still affects me, and it's also affecting me to understand that the process of this is going to a trial, as opposed to what I saw with my own two eyes that I believe that's right or wrong. So how do we turn this into a way that we work on ourselves? I mentioned before, being very careful of the images that you digest, but also being very mindful of who you are and showing up as that person. I know how delicate it is to be yourself. I know that that's a huge troubling factor within society, but you have to find those spaces in the world where you can show up and be authentically yourself, no holds barred. And it just builds your strength and it builds your character and it allows you to grow. If validation becomes something that's always outside of you, you'll always be seeking it in a way that may be disconnected from your sole purpose. So I would love to close this podcast, and I would love for the listeners to understand the message that anything outside of you cannot tell you who you are. Your identity and your soul and your spirit, that's within you. And it's our jobs here on life. And being alive, it is our job to live out our lives as fully as we love to be. So be very conscious of the images that you're digesting and fight against them. If you don't believe them, keep showing up as yourself. You do not have to take the definition of character that someone gives you, and you do not have to live up to some standard that wasn't created by you. Always be yourself, and make sure that you touch in not only with yourself, but that you touch in with communities and different outlets that will allow you to show up as every facet of yourself. Nobody's one-dimensional in our society today. So if you like cooking, if you like speaking, if you like playing sports, whatever makes you feel good about yourself. Make sure that you're able to show up in the world that way. Therefore, you're being validated for something that you like. I remember having these struggles with validation and always searching it outside of myself. And I slowly grew to understand who I was and accept myself. And I had to make specific decisions within myself and for myself to keep me on my path of growth. And this podcast is definitely a huge component to keeping me on that goal of growing, as well as the literature I read, and as well as me just learning how to communicate effectively. So I'm not an expert on the subject of self-development, but I am a work in progress, and I love sharing the knowledge and the information. So please remember, everyone, validation does not lie outside of you. It does not have to. It is within you, and the things that you see is your choice. Make sure you're digesting powerful images, and never settle. Always speak up for yourself. Always love yourself. This is Talk Tuesdays, and I'll see you guys next week. The component to this, I want to say, I'm going to leave in the description. My Twitter is at Alicia, phonetically spelled AAHLEESHA. Please reach out to me there. Tell me if you love the podcast, if you hate it, if you don't like it, we can tweak it. Some questions you want to dig deeper into, or some new topics, please reach out to me. I'll leave all my contact information within the description box. Please rate, like, subscribe. Let me know what's going on so I can continue on this journey of self-development, but make it more available to you and make the episodes things that you would prefer to listen to. Thank you so much for your time this week. I appreciate you for listening. Have a great week.